Hello children, a very good morning to all of you. Today again we will begin with the first flight book, but with the second poem, that is your Fire and Ice, which is again written by Robert Frost. Fire and Ice. This is a symbolic poem. This poem symbolizes two opposite things. In this poem, the poet says that the world will either end with fire or with ice. Robert Frost's poem Fire and Ice is a strong symbolic poem where fire is used as the emotion of desire and ice that of hatred. He has used the idea of two groups who have their own possible explanation for the end of the world. One is of the opinion that fire alone can destroy each and every possibility of life on earth, while the other thinks that if ice, as a result of extreme low temperatures, would cover the earth's surface, it would lead to the end of the world. Both the components are compared with self-destructing human emotions, desire and hatred. The poet is originally of the opinion that he has been very closely associated with the fiery desires and considers it capable of bringing human beings on the verge of destruction. Thus, he considers fire as more competent for destruction. But then he thinks that icy hatred is just as capable of ruining humans, though slowly and steadily. Therefore, the poet says that if earth was to end twice, ice would be just as good as fire. If fire would lead to rapid destruction, ice would lead to silent damage. Similarly, if fire is pure passion, ice is pure reason. Thus, the poem very artistically underpins the philosophy that we let our emotions rule us, as if we don't control them, they will surely bring us all the verge of chaos. Now, children, let us read the poem Poetry to Fire and Ice by Robert Frost. Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. From what I have tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. But if it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction ice is also great and would suffice. So children, there are two hard words in the poem. As the last poem, you can see this is also a very short poem having only 2 stanzas and 9 lines. First stanza, it includes of 4 lines, and the second stanza you can see as it has 5 lines. So the two hard words, as you can see in the second stanza, first line, sixth word, perish. Then the last word, suffice. So these are the two hard words you can find in the poem. Perish. The meaning of perish is end or to finish. Suffice. The meaning of suffice is sufficient. The meaning is clear to you? As I have told you that this is a symbolic poem where fire symbolizes desire and wants and ice symbolizes hatred and war. So through this poem, the poet is trying to tell us that if someday the world will come to an end, the reason will be fire and ice. Now I will read the poem stanza wise and then explain it to you. As you know, this poem is a very short poem having only two stanzas. So it consists of total 9 lines. First stanza consists of 4 lines and the second stanza consists of 5 lines. The first stanza is, some say the world will end in fire. Some say in ice. From what I have tasted of desire, I hold with those who favor fire. So, the poem expresses the profound idea that the world would end in either of two ways, either by ice or fire. One group is of the opinion that someday the earth's core will get so heated up that it would lead to fire destroying the earth's surface. So, here, one group, the poet means to say the people, even the poet is not knowing who are those people. So, they are the random people. On the other hand, the second group says that if the temperature goes down to an extent that makes life on earth impossible, it would have the same catastrophic effect. The poet then compares fire and ice with the destructive features of human emotions, desires, and hatred. He says that from what he is aware about fiery desires, he would favor the ones who say that it would be fire. By saying so, he brings about the idea that human beings let their emotions rule them and the consequence of unmonitored longing in chaos. Now, moving ahead towards the next stanza, which has 5 lines. But if it had to perish twice, I think I know enough of hate to say that for destruction, ice is also great and would suffice. So, in this stanza, the poet wants to say that then by not waving off the first option of fire, he considers if the world has to expire twice, ice would be equally competent in ending it. He brings about a contrast between ice and hatred. The human capability of insensitivity and hatred has the same potential for inner destruction. Though slow and steady, it has the same effect that desire has on us. So, if given an option between fire and ice, ice would be just as good as fire to destroy the world. Now, we will have a look on the poetic devices that is used in the poem. The first one is anaphora, which means the repetition. As you can see in the poem, first stanza, first two lines, it was repeated. Some say the world will end in fire, some say in ice. So when two consecutive lines are repeated, it is known as anaphora. The second is enjambment. When three lines in the poem containing without any punctuation, it is known as enjambment. You can see in the second stanza last three lines. To say that for destruction ice, there is no punctuation. It also great and would suffice. There is a full stop at the end. but there is no other punctuation used continuously in the three lines. So it is enjambment. Now the third is alliteration. Alliteration is the repetition of the consonant sounds. For example, in the first line, some say the world will end in fire. It is some say S sound is repeated. Fourth one is assonance. One sound is constantly repeated in assonance. If it is repeated more than 2 times, it means 3 or more than 3 times. So that is known as assonance. So here in the poem, there were 2 lines in which 2 different sounds were constantly repeated. First sound was of I and second sound was of O. The example of I sound you can find in the poem is will end in fire. So will end in fire. You can find I sound in will, in and fire. In the same way, you can find O sound in hold with those who favor fire. Hold those who favor. So you can find O sound in these lines. Now to assess yourself. The first question for the poem that you have studied right now, it is, what are the 2 opinions discussed in the poem about the end of this world? I hope you remember. Second, what does fire stands for in the poem? Third, what does ice stands for in the poem? So I think these are the simple questions that I have asked you, and you can easily write the answers of these questions in your rough notebook or any other old notebook. Thank you.